So, good evening, everybody. Thank you all for being with us today, and thank you to our panelists and our viewers. So, Sports Psyche, along with DHEECast, presents this webinar called Mind Matters, where we'll discuss about the mental health issues that athletes face, with a special emphasis on lockdown. So, first of all, I'd like to introduce the panel today. Uh, on my right, I have my Sports Psyche co-founder Sanket Agarwal. Uh, and then next to him we have Khushi Madan, who hails from Mumbai, and she's a budding chess player. She's also come first in this year's Maharashtra region competition, and she studies currently in Jamnabai Narsi School. And then we have Mr. Harshvardhan Thakur, who's joining us from Delhi. He is currently studying in Shaheen Bagh College in Delhi, and he plays football for the Youth I League team in Delhi also. So, first of all, thank you everybody for joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure and honor. And thank you to DHEECast for giving us this platform. And yeah, now I'll hand it over to Sanket to give a brief introduction on our social media page, Sports Psyche.
Hi guys, Sanket this side. So first let's talk about what is mental health and what is the perception of Indians towards the topic. So mental health is like any other important health factor in your body. Like for example, if you get any mental health illness, it's like cancer or any other disease which your body can suffer from. But in India, it's a taboo. So like in the past days, when like someone was suffering from any kind of mental health issues, it was like a ghost has entered the body. But we have to change the mindset because we are evolving. So this can also happen due to deficiency of several nutrients like vitamin B12 and vitamin D, and cause clinical depression. So it's a really important topic to talk about. Now let's talk about how mental health has affected sports industry in India. So as you know that any sports person can has to like has massive load on his body while playing, because like they travel 10 hours and then they reach the destination and play matches for like 90 minutes continuously. And if I talk about test matches, 5 days continuously, that's massive. So and the body can suffer from fatigue and mental illness very easily. So but like there's not any program in like any sports industry to like help the thing. So this is what me and Ayush, my partner, like we thought about, and then we decided to create a page on Instagram, and the name is Sports Psyche. So like there we talk to people, not only professional sports people, but also teenagers, because that's very important, because they also like face many mental health issues. So we talked to them and asked about their stories, and then show it to everyone on the page. So we what we want is that someone from the higher authority grabs gives attention to the page and tries to get get mental health in the system, because it is very important. Currently there's only a small amount of people who are like in mental health, like helping mental health illnesses go away. Like for example, in cricket, like people have mental health conditioning mentors. So that's a great step, but yeah, it needs to get better. So yeah, over to Ayush. No, I think you're muted.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Ayush, you muted.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
sir,
now
Cool.
can you hear
Cool.
us? Yeah.
Hmm.
So we basically wanted to know your first reaction on the page you opened up and how relevant do you feel it is in today's day and age? These kind of initiatives.
It's a question to me, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, you.
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Hi, Ash. Firstly, I would just like to thank all my young friends who are here. Thanks for getting me here. I'm Gautam Bhattacharyya. I work for the Gulf News in Dubai. Yes,
So it's our privilege.
yeah. I think it's been a couple of months that you have got your page up and running. I think it's a very good initiative because for all that we say or do, in fact, with the professional sports franchisees or professional sports persons, we know that they are he or she is taking the help of a psychologist. Now, what is it? It's still a bit of a gray area. We know of whenever a famous people like has to take recourse to psychiatrists or specialists help. Let me say, for example, sometime late last year we had this case of Glenn Maxwell. I mean, such a chirpy Australian guy, quite an extrovert character. So he had to take a break from cricket and he had to seek help of doctors. And he got a very, like more than enable help in his coach Justin Langer, who, in fact, I was doing some reading before I came to the show of you guys. So then I learned that Justin had again had a chat with the Australian cricketers sometime in April, and you see, this April, where the year where lockdown was just barely into 1 month or so. So after that, 4 months have gone by. So the situation has become little more, all the more critical or all the more intense, I suppose, for sports persons. So it kind of coincided. I'm sure you guys. I mean, when the lockdown happened, that was a kind of trigger for you guys to like start this one. So to keep things short, and then like you guys we can throw some questions or we can exchange some ideas. Definitely the problem of sports persons it has got acute during this last 4 to 5 months, because these people are generally high strung. When we look at a normal individual like somebody like me, I mean, for us it's going to office, leading the daily life. Our concerns are somewhat more towards our daily lifestyle or livelihood. When is my child's school, when is it going to reopen, what's going to happen, where are we going to get our daily provisions from. That's the kind of uh, inquiry or concern we have. For sports persons, like at whichever level of competition they are, it's manifold. One is, of course, the lack of activity because they live on a high life. And whenever the active sports persons, I'm keeping the young lady out of it. I mean, hers is more of a mental game. But active sports persons, when the muscles are not that used, there's a question of muscle atrophy, talking strictly in medical terms. So that's the time we need to be very alert to fight off depression, to fight off any form of anxiety by setting themselves goal. Again, by getting in touch with their psychiatric help, that this is what we need to do. This is the target I need to achieve for first week, second week. Keep themselves very positive and take it from there. So hence your page at this point is very relevant. We hope to see it like carry on beyond the lockdown times and try and be of help to the sports persons.
Thank you so much for your encouragement, sir, and very, very valid points raised. We'll come back to that later in detail, especially the Maxwell issue. So I'll like to start off by Khushi. Hello, Khushi. Good evening. So as I've told you guys, Khushi is a chess player, budding chess player from Mumbai. Has a lot of laurels and awards to her name already. So people generally think that sports is a like chess is a mental game, and the problems you have are a bit less than a physically demanding game like football per se. But I would like to first hear Khushi's thoughts on how she has coped in during lockdown, because even during lockdown she must not be going to tournaments and everything. That must be a challenge for her also. So, hello Kushi, I hope you're doing well and would love to know your thoughts about how you've coped not playing competitive chess during this lockdown and yeah, how this whole pandemic is panned out.
First of all, hi everyone, and like thank you so much for having me here. Um, During this lockdown, I think specifically, yeah, I do miss going to tournaments a lot because I've been playing since I was very young, probably since I was in kindergarten. That's the time I started learning, and that's the time I got exposed to tournaments and everything. So I've been playing since that age, so I have basically grown up in tournaments. All the arbiters, the people who are often there, and the managers who handle the event, they've actually seen me grow up there. So obviously, I miss going to those events as a major part. Um, as far as practice is concerned, usually my practices are online either way. So that wasn't much of a big deal for me. But of course, I miss my coach actually physically being there with me and playing on a board instead of just being on the laptop. Like we did find ways to still be able to take our class together online as well. But obviously, it was much better when he was physically present next to me and we were just actually playing the game on the board. Chess also has certain online tournaments, but I personally haven't ever gone for one. Um, so I'm not really sure how that works because I think it's easier, I think, to like cheat probably in an online tournament, but I'm not sure about how that would like work. So I haven't really done any online tournament yet, but as far as practice and everything is concerned, I think it's going good.
Thank you, Kushi, and I completely agree that you might practice chess in the comfort of your home, but till that time, those competitive juices don't start flowing inside, you really don't get the kick on. So I do agree with that. Adding on to that, I want to get into a bit more detail about mental health in general. Like I've spoken to you in the past and in previous conversations, you've stated about the challenges you have faced, the mental battles you have faced, and how your coaches and your parents have helped you out during those times. So, would love if you could share that experience with our viewers today. That'll be a fun.
Sure. So uh, I never really started winning. I have switched coaches over the past since how many years I've been playing, but the last coach that I switched, his name is Sanjay, and he's stuck. And that's when I personally started actually playing well and winning tournaments. And I actually met him through my sister's friend, who is also a very good chess player, and he used to coach her. And one day he just happened to be there when we were at her house, and we spoke, and we played a few moves, and he liked the way I played, and that's when I met him, and I think I share a very close bond with him that um, most people don't have their coaches. So I could share a lot with him about what I was happening, whether it be in school or whether it be about my personal mental health. I could share with him and he would help me get out of it. So he wasn't only like a chess coach to me, but he was also kind of like a life coach. And he always compared chess and life for me. And that's what helped me also to get better and to understand even chess better and even life better, so I could relate both the moments, whether it's on board or off board. As far as like challenges are concerned, um, each game mattered in a tournament. So um, for me, I always felt like I did work hard, but I used to always miss out by just this much of a margin to be the best. And that is something that always pinched me, that at that one last game or that one last point, this much effort was remaining and I just couldn't give it or do it. And that's what usually led me to my losses. Or even if that one game is lost, usually our ranking comes down by quite a lot. And um, that's when I have to learn that the losses are actually more important, because each loss has taught me something different, has either taught me a new opening, a new strategy, a new way to think, a new way to plan, and just basically gives me a different perspective.
Brilliant, Kush. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you. And I really like the point where you talked about handling losses. Make of it, become successful, to be humble and grounded. But nobody teaches us how to cope with our failures. So, and also about the coach, you said he was way more than just a sports coach and life coach. So I think that's a big learning for our viewers here, that sports is definitely important, but it's not everything. It has to be a holistic development of an individual, which I feel holds more importance. So thank you, Kushi. I'm sure our viewers have benefited a lot from what you've said. And just, sir, if you have any thoughts on what she said or any reactions.
Yes, I think Krushi has made a very valid point there. I mean, this this reminds me of a recent interview that I'd been doing with PV Sindhu. So there, obviously, the question came up that what's happening is on 25th of August, she's going to complete 1 year of her, tenure at the top. She had been a world champion last year, August 25th. She won it, beating one of her nemesis, Okuhara, at the World Championships. So she said that, like what each of before that, she has had 4 medals. Like, one of them is the Olympics. I mean, they are, 2 silver and 2 bronze. So she said that, each time this happened, there had been a heartbreak for the millions of Indians. But at the same time, there was a buzz that does she have a final phobia? What goes wrong with her? So she had to come back to, and she had a rock in Pulela Gopichand, and that's where they video analyze the mistakes. They tried to analyze what was going wrong in the mental part of it. It was not easy because, once again, as Kushi very rightly said, that it would be a very minuscule, being so near yet so far, that kind of a syndrome. That Olympics silver medal is fine, but you don't win a silver medal. You have to settle for silver, having lost the gold. That's the thing. So she said that all this made me stronger, and it took her almost about 4 to 5 years to eventually strike the gold at the last World Championships. So that's again a mental barrier, which I think it's up to each individual sports person. And I mean, as Kushi's argument points out, that it ranges from a mental game like chess to a physically demanding sport like badminton. Very, very good point, Kushi. Yeah.
So thank you, sir, for your insights. PVC is definitely an inspiration for all of us. And I think the point which is important, what you said is, when we face a loss, not being emotionally reactive, but logically analyzing what went wrong and then taking steps towards success. Thank you. So now I'll call on Sanket to please talk.
Thank you, Ayush. So great talk, Kushi. So now I'll talk to you, Harsh. So what are your experiences? Because like you played a body contact sports, which was very physical in nature, and obviously you weren't able to practice during the lockdown. So what were your experiences? Can you like emphasize on that?
Uh, First of all, hello everyone, and thank you for having me here. And my name is Harshadin, and I play football. And considering your question, in lockdown, basically it has affected me on like many levels. Like I used to practice every day for 2 hours or 2.5 hours after college, and when it suddenly stopped, so for the first few weeks, I was like very, I was very, no, I was very sad basically, and I just did not know what to do. Like I had no other hobbies. It has always been football for me. Like ever since growing up, it has always been football. And I started football when I was in class 5, and since then, each year, my mom she always supported me. I'm very fortunate enough to have my parents who are supportive. And I think that every student or every sports person, they deserve supportive parents, because as long as the people around you are supportive, then you can achieve anything you want if you keep your mind on it. And that's what I did. Like from class 5 till class 10th, I just focused on football, and academically I wasn't that great, so I had to do something, in anything. So, but the main thing was my dad wasn't supportive. Like till class 10th, he always wanted me to do something related to science or anything. So that was the only hindrance. But eventually he gave in. He let me take up football, and I played my first professional match when I was in class 12, which was when I was like 17. So it's pretty late. It's pretty late if you think about how many footballers they start their career at the age of 13. But then I don't have any regrets, and I'm actually glad to be a part of the FIFA community. And so the lockdown, first 3 weeks, my coach he always told me to work on my fitness, like solo practice and everything. But football, you can't really enjoy football when you are practicing alone. So all I did was I took a break from football. I did not do anything related to football. I only started running. I started the home workout, and I started watching motivational videos because I wanted to boost my confidence. Because I was in a bad place mentally, and thanks to you guys, I'm able to share my story. And it's really tough to actually talk about what's going on in a person's mind, and and I'm glad that I'm a part of this.
Oh, I completely understand, Harsh, what you went through. Because like being a cricketer myself, I had the same issues. Like I was very scared. I had to work on my fitness. I was kind of in the healthiest side, like physically. So I had to work on it. So like as you said that your father was like wasn't very supportive when you were like in grade 10,
Yeah, yeah.
if I'm not wrong. So like, how did you like cope with that, and how like did it affect you mentally?
No, basically, there is this one time he came to see my match, and in that match, I had scored 4 goals against Venkateshwar School. So my dad, he was watching from the stands, and he was like, you cannot believe that it was me who's playing. So at home, he talked to me about it, and he wanted to make sure that I wanted to take football professionally, and so yeah, he agreed.
That was a
That's
very
all.
like that was a great experience. Now, like being a footballer yourself, did you practice something in your like house, any drills which you would suggest for any other player so that like they don't lose their touch in football and like are also able to engage their mind continuously while in lockdown?
And honestly, till June, I was completely off football during this lockdown. I had like no contact. Like I even stopped talking to my teammates because the more they talk about football, the more it made me sad that I'm away from football. And now slowly things are coming back to normal, and now I'm fortunate enough to have like I'm able to go to practice now, and so yeah,
Thank you, Harsh, so much. I loved your candid nature,
yeah.
the way you spoke with all your heart. Very few people can do that, trust me. So really, really admire that and really, really appreciate. So, sir, first I'll come to you. First, if you have any thoughts on what Harsh said, because he really opened up.
Yes, I mean, in fact, that's the. I have a question just for Harsh here. You see, I mean, when the lockdown started, say sometime around mid-March, then we were thinking
Yes,
from
sir.
this side of the spectrum that okay, it could be 1 month. Then 1 month went away. Then you got into the second month. So what kind of a like you couldn't go out and practice obviously, and football is such a thing. I mean, how much of online counseling and all that you will do? Ultimately, it's a body
Yeah.
contact and outdoor game. So
Yes,
with
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
so with each month, how difficult was it for you to keep your motivation levels high, that or not to rush things? That's also an important thing because you are so young. How did you manage it?
Honestly, it was very difficult for me because I wasn't mentally prepared for anything, and it's always been like this. Like whenever something happens, I'm not mentally prepared for it. Like I have to make sure that I'm mentally strong enough to face these challenges ahead. But this lockdown, and now I'm starting to practice. This COVID, it has put a very like I'm very conscious, and at times I don't even go to the practice because there are so many people coming, and I have to be safe. Like I have to think about my family, and I have to think about my friends who are coming in contact with. And so, and yeah, but at the same time, it's football. Like football has always been my top priority, and it's really tough to let go. And it's been like 4 months since I played football, and I have to think on those levels too. But yes, if you're concerned about the fact that I'm keeping safe, I am. And there is this little ground here, and it's just for the society people. I just go there, and I focus on individual practice or social people. That's it. I'm not playing the actual football like 11 people, 22 people, and all. I'm just the individual.
Okay, but the thing is, you see, when we were passing through that, I mean, the Bundesliga was the first league to open up in mid-May. I mean, they were the kind of path breakers that way. So did you take heart that, okay, now Bundesliga is starting, so all of us follow English Premier League the most possibly. So then you thought that, I mean, what was your thinking that, okay, there's light at the end of the tunnel, I mean, now things will improve. What was your thinking when Bundesliga started?
Honestly, I wasn't thinking that things will be back to normal again because it was just the lockdown started opening. It's not like the virus is gone completely. So my mind was still on those levels that I have to keep myself safe. Just because the government has imposed the unlock, it does not mean that everyone can go out and resume their normal life. So until the vaccination is done, then everyone has to be safe. And for me personally, it's been very tough. It's been like very tough for me to cope up without football. And uh, but at the same time, I have to think about the virus, and I have to think about my family. So I'm just trying to keep it balanced. Just trying to keep it balanced.
Thank you, Harsh. So now, Gautam sir, I'll come to you. So, sir, as we know, you have been covering sports for decades now. You have a wealth of experience in this field. And I'd like to shift the focus a bit from budding athletes. It's important to know about them, but about the athletes who are professional also. Because I think financially, they have been affected a lot during lockdown. Even like I can cite an example. There was this player who was playing the Mumbai Premier League. If you know, that happens in Mumbai every in April or May, and he actually didn't have a place to live because he had planned he'll build his own house or a place to live with the money he got from playing, but that obviously couldn't happen due to lockdown. So professional athletes have been facing a variety of challenges during lockdown, and as you yourself have spoken to various athletes during this lockdown as usual. So would love to know your thoughts on their mindset and how they're looking to adjust to the new normal, as they call it.
See, it's been a very tough call. I mean, whoever I've spoken to, they have admitted the challenges. Nobody, nobody said that it had been seamless. I mean, to be honest, when we see that, Virat Kohli, somebody like Virat Kohli, it doesn't get any bigger than him. He comes to the Instagram and all that because he has got a commitment there. He comes with his wife. Some days he's doing weight training. Some days the two of them are possibly fooling around or having a kind of easy time, which they open up, the private life into for the benefit of social media. This is one way of, they at least have a way of engaging themselves and showing to the world that what they're doing. But it comes in various layers. I mean, you've got international sports persons, you've got state sports persons. So for all of them, it's been very tough. Like I have spoken to a number of Bengal state cricketers. I mean, this is for you, Daban. I mean, I was asking them that, how are they managing? Because not only has the action stopped, the state had done well. They had finished runners up in the last Ranji Trophy, which, the final was one of the last few events which actually happened. And then you're staring into uncertainty. You don't know when the next domestic season is going to start. So what they did was the Cricket Association of Bengal, after a few months wait, first they did the virtual training. I think you are aware of that, where they brought in their own physiotherapists for the physical part of it. Then the coaches like Arun Lal, Shorashish Lahiri, they also came, and they were giving them pep talks. And along with that, these players, like well-known names like say Manoj Tiwari and the other colleagues, they kind of, Manoj told me that, what we tried to do was we tried to talk between each other as much as possible, either through the joint sessions or through personal sessions also. Just pick up the phone and talk. That's what they did to keep their morale high. So I think each sports person may have had a different kind of recipe to keep their morale going, and that's how they have come this far. And hopefully, we can expect things to get better. Maybe in another, it won't happen overnight, but maybe another couple of months.
Thank you so much, sir. We'll just take a few questions before we proceed.
Sure.
So I'll just ask a couple, then Sanket will give the rest. So Devashish Mazumdar asks that don't you think the professional sports persons are more mentally stronger to tackle situations like inactivity due to whatever reasons? Like he's asking whether this lockdown, sports persons are more mentally better equipped to tackle this issue mentally when the mental aspect.
Yes, yes, they are meant to be. I mean, that is why they have reached to a stage where they are. But you see, I mean, sometimes you hear this theory that sports persons also do get injured. So why don't you take it as a kind of injury layoff? But the two are different. I mean, with injury, there you can, depending on the grade of injury, you can look at a certain time span, right? That, okay, 6 weeks you will be off, then you will get into the rehab, and then gradually you will ease into action. Here we have got this situation where, that uncertain element starts eating into the mind of an athlete a bit. I mean, that's why I asked Harsh that, okay, in March you must have thought that, okay, by April I should be able to get back. April became May, May became June. So I'm sure it was not easy, but and you see, whoever you are as a sports person, that anxiety bit, because at the end of the day, the lifespan of an athlete is limited. At the end of the day, that is what you're staring at. So it was as bad a mental challenge. And since Harsh is a footballer, I'd just like to share a bit of numbers with all of you. As early as in May, as early as in April, sometime late April, the FIFA Pro, that organization FIFPro, they did a survey among 1,600 active footballers, and there it showed that there has been a quite, I mean, more than a 20% generic cases of mental problems where they approached for psychiatric help. Women footballers were there, men footballers were there. And these were all professional footballers that I'm talking about, because they were all subject of the FIFPro survey. So it's been tough. It's been tough, but yes, I mean, they have this resilience, I think. I mean, that's why they've got that far to handle it.
Now I'll ask Sanket to ask a couple of questions. Sanket, if you may.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. So Faiza Warsi asked, like, how do like the sports person cope with the like fear of having injuries, because like they're very common in body contact sports. So like, how do they cope up with the fear of having injuries?
This is for me?
Yes, sir. That was directed to you.
Yeah. See, it's, I mean, the thing is, if you look at sporting legends, I think, see, I mean, my experience of playing active sport was limited to the university level or college level, as you can understand. Because I loved it so much, I'm into this. But the more you speak to these legends, you will see that each of them has had their share of injuries and share of doubts. If you look at somebody like, say, we can take up cricket. If you look up somebody like Sachin Tendulkar, back, tennis elbow, hand, the palm, the right palm. I mean, that's what, with virtually a split webbing there, he played the 2003 World Cup and scored 600 plus runs there. So that's him. Then whether you talk about a Messi, whether you talk about a Neymar, I mean, you will see that, I mean, the footballers, just the kind of battering their body takes, and you see that the footballer is getting injured at point A, and when you just have possibly ruled him out of the season, he's back there in the La Liga sometime down the maybe a 1 month down the thing. So while we don't know what's going on in their mind, what we can appreciate is the kind of pressure that they have to endure. The team is looking at them, team management is looking at them. So it's quite a tough call, really. But all of them, I mean, if anybody has gone relatively injury free, it's a kind of a blessing. But it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. They have to go through it, and that's why, once again, as I say, they are where they are today.
And now, look, Mr. Lokesh is asking that esports is a growing venture in our country. So, like, is it helping in any way curbing depression and other mental health illnesses?
Yes, it did. I mean, esports today takes a special meaning. But when esport finally started, I mean, even when it started in its initial years, it was a kind of, it was possibly looked at not so serious element of sport. It was like a better version of your Xbox and other things. But gradually, esports has also come up a long way. At the Asian Games, the last one, I think it was one of the demonstration sports. And now, in these 5 months, I mean, I don't have to tell you that it's how much it has grown in importance. Number one, and number two, major mainstream sport are taking up the model of esport to keep their events going. We have had virtual events taking place in tennis. We have had virtual events taking place in motorsport, and it's going to grow. I mean, in this new normal, I'm sure esports will make a niche for itself in an even bigger way by the time we are through with all this.
One last question. So it's very interesting one asked by Sumanshu Chaudhary. The thing is that, do you think for an athlete competing at a significant level, mental conditioning is as important as final touch-up training session before a match or a fight? Like, he's basically trying to say that like practice is as important as mentally conditioning a player.
Absolutely. I mean, you see, why do you think the role of psychiatric help or psychologist help has become so important at different strata of sport? I mean, if you look at IPL, which is going to happen here in about a month's time, little more than a month's time in the UAE this time. So each team, I mean, they have at least 1 to 2 people who are engaged in this capacity. So initially, there may have been this thinking that in T20 cricket, what kind of a mental help or a psychiatric help do you need? But if you get anywhere closer to the kind of ambience that is created, the kind of pressure cooker situation that is created in their ecosystem with the franchisee owners having heavy expectations, it's a kind of massive ring. The franchisee owners' expectations, TV, the kind of money involved, the pressure is manifold. It is nothing less than international cricket. In fact, sometimes more. So that's where they engage these mind coaches. They engage full-time specialists to work with the team for nearly 3 months. I mean, I know, and they also get hold of people who are achievers in different other kind of fields for motivation talk. Like this, you've got this team Rajasthan Royals. They do all kinds of things. I think a couple of seasons back, they were a sister. Just if you can get me the name, that will be a help. Who had climbed the Everest? They got them down there, for a session with them. Then I think last year I was watching a documentary of the Royals, which is called The Inside Story. They got a person who is a champion, surfer. So they conducted the session with him fighting waves, incredible waves. I mean, scary waves. So that takes a kind of symbolic meaning of its own. That you are up against this and you have to get out of this. So each of these franchises, they try different, kind of tricks in the book to keep the morale high of the players. This is all a part of that mental conditioning, all a part of that adversity. Once again, why I'm taking the example of IPL is, the margin of error is very less. I mean, they keep playing virtually every other day. 3 matches you lose on the trot, you are 6th or 7th in the league table, and then you don't know how to climb up because and there's very stiff competition. You win 1 match, you climb up to the 4th position. So that's where they heavily resort to help of mental coaching to get out of this crisis. Yes, it's very important.
Yeah, so actually, I have a lot of questions, but I have to, incise it. So, I have a question in relation to what has been asked already. So, Utsav Chatterjee has asked, and I'll add on to that later on. I'll add on my view. That what is the role of a coach in this type of situation, especially in games like football and cricket? So, to just add on to this, I want to ask you because, as I have previously mentioned, you have been in contact with top level athletes for a long time. And do you feel that in a professional team, a coach for specifics like a batting coach and bowling coach is that important, or should it be just man management like a Paddy Upton or a Mike Horn, who motivate and build the morale of the team? So do you really think that this is actually more important rather than a specific batting or a bowling coach in professional teams?
See, both are important. I mean, sometimes you get a school of thought who will possibly tell you that, if you've got a coach, if you've got a head coach who was a good batsman or a good batsman and a reasonably decent bowler, why do you need a batting coach or a bowling coach separately? There are different kind of theories. I mean, people coming from an earlier generation would possibly tend to believe that one coach is enough. I mean, this is just nothing but a ploy of spreading the purse. But then there are others who may feel that no. I mean, if you have to spend a certain amount of time with one guy who's ultimately in batting, it is so much of a confidence game. It is so much of a mind game. I mean, just invariably when a batsman is out of form, what starts happening is his nicks start getting carried to the slips. He would never get to know that where his off stump is. When the same guy is in form, then that's not a problem. Even his miss hits are carrying down the third man for fours and all that. So if you ask me, I think yes. I mean, the three bases need to be covered. Number one, as far as mental coaches are required, it depends on which level, which strata of teams are we talking about. The bigger the teams, the bigger the international teams or franchisee teams, it has become a kind of imperative that each team carry at least one person who is able to look into the minds of the players. Man management is the job of the captain. Man management is not as much a job of the person who's providing psychological help. He is there as a kind of standby. He can do, especially when you have longer tournaments. I think his role becomes quite important. To guide through those low phases. He may devise something out of his technical expertise to carry the team through.
Thanks again, sir. Of course, the emphasis you talked about that there has to be a good balance between the two. Yeah. So one question is being asked. I think this is the question that everybody around in the whole country is asking right now. So you of course have a better access. That how is Dubai shaping up for the IPL extravaganza? And it's going to be kind of a festival for the whole country. And we've been waiting since a long time for this. So if you could give an insight or any details on that, we would be really grateful.
Well, this was not exactly part of the agenda, but I will be happy to answer this one. Yes, you see, I mean, by God's grace, the coronavirus situation is much more in control here than possibly what it was around April. Now, at a daily level, you're looking at around 200 or 250 cases on an average, and the rate of recovery is more than that, say 300 plus, like that. So that when the rate of recovery is more than that of new cases, it's a kind of yardstick for you that you have managed to flatten the curve. That's why the BCCI has agreed to bring it here, and also the local government sees it as an opportunity, after a lull of about 4.5 to 5 months, to to market this, to like once again say that things are happening, normal activities are resuming back in the UAE. Now, as far as that buzz, we'll have to wait for some more time, because what's going to happen is, you see, all of you know that these teams are going to come by the third week, say after 20th. Now, once they come, you're not going to see them in public. I mean, in cricket, what's the thing? Like, a team is going down, Mumbai Indians are going down to practice at the ICC Academy. There will be, some 300, 400 people. Had it been India, there would have been 5,000 people, at least to watch these guys in practice. And that's how we create the buzz. I mean, a player stops by you to take help them to a selfie or something. That is completely out of question this time. They are going to stay holed up in the hotel rooms for 6 to 7 days, take 3 more tests, and after that they're going to get down into practice. And this practice is once again, this bio bubble. This is a term which you guys have been hearing for quite some time now. So why do they call it a bio bubble? Because it's like to create a 3D effect. It's not as if like you are X or Y is not supposed to step out of the hotel room. That is just one part of it. But whenever he is stepping out of the hotel room, the lobby that he's taking, the practice grounds that he's going to, everything should be sanitized, and everybody should be above board. There should be no doubt about anybody. Hence, it's a bio bubble. But once the teams arrive, and also once we also up our game, I mean, the pictures of theirs are going to come out. There will be a problem of access for us, but each of the social media teams of this franchises, they're going to take care of it. Then gradually, I think the mood will build up.
Okay, so now it's a personal question. So I think, yeah, so it's a very new thing. I think you heard about what happened with Karan Tiwari.
Yes.
So how to face rejection, and it's a very important factor in mental health.
Yeah, I'm glad that you asked me this question. I mean, when I knew the subject, and when this thing of Karan happened, I mean, it happened, I think, day before. Yeah.
Yes.
I was just reading through his story, and it's such a terrible waste of life. That's what you can say. But this is a problem. I think it is a very peculiar problem to the Indian subcontinent, especially to India, where people are bred. The young cricketers are bred on looking up to the Virat Kohlis and Rohit Sharmas or Jasprit Bumrahs. But what we also don't realize is that for that elite 30, there are about 30,000 who are looking at getting a share of the pie. Now, this guy, this Karan, he used to be in the Bombay local cricket circles. I read that he used to be called the Delstein of Mumbai, and he has also bowled to, he had decent pace. He has also bowled to some of the IPL teams when they used to camp there. But yes, this happens. I mean, sometimes a guy, an X or Y character who may not be as good as him, but has got a break into one of these teams as one of the fringe players who's still making decent money. This didn't happen with him, but this doesn't mean that he has to end his life. So I think one thing I would say that, especially in the context of our subcontinent, is that any sports person, because not all of them are Sachin Tendulkars, right? So if they keep that balance, at least, if 75% is pursuing your dreams and 25% is getting ready for a future life with a minimum academics, so that you can present yourself, you give yourself 5 years. If it doesn't happen, then you will like go and opt for a normal life or try and do something else. You will find loads of these examples that even in our generation, so and so was good enough, it didn't happen, he ended up as a bank manager. So that's where you feel bad about. And it's again, it's again a lesson for people as to, you have to be ready to take on rejection, because in India the competition is really, really tough.
Thank you, sir. Like, actually, I have a lot of questions. I'm like a kid at a candy store now. Like, I'm like bubbling with questions inside me. But that's why I also try to extend the session by 10, 15 minutes, because these are the kind of conversations I absolutely crave. Like, I die for these kind of conversations too. I can put it that way.
You can go ahead. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I am. Like, I will. Like, I don't have any other option. Like, otherwise, I won't be able to sleep at night. So yeah, my next question to you, which I was waiting to ask for a long time, is like I mentioned earlier, the case of Glenn Maxwell, and I'll bring a few more names here, like Marcus Trescothick and Jonathan Trott, people who don't know the international cricketers who have all had illustrious careers, and like Glenn Maxwell is playing currently. And the common thing between them is they have all who have opened up about their mental health back. Like, you must be knowing, and many of them, like Marcus Trescothick and Jonathan Trott, would take the pressure of international cricket and even retired. And even a superstar like A.B. de Villiers, even he retired due to the mental struggles. So my question to you is, like, why do you see these kind of players coming from abroad only and not from? I'll put it to subcontinent countries. Like, why don't more people? Is it because they're mentally tougher, or is it that we don't open up and we always have to act as the hero? So, what is the reason that in these so-called SEMA countries, more players actually open up, while on subcontinent we are a bit subdued about this?
I think it's a great question, Ayush. I'm glad that you have asked it. In fact, I also, if you look at this phenomena, you will see that possibly on a scale of 10, 60% of the players, there is a like a track record of them coming from England. Then you got Australia, like Glenn Maxwell you've spoken about. You've got South Africa, and you've got the other countries off and on. So I don't know whether it's the weather, which is half the time gloomy or rainy in England. It has got something to do with it. But yes, jokes aside, I had kept this question to Paddy Upton. Last year I was doing an interview with him after the Glenn Maxwell case happened, and I asked him that, you see, relatively, when we look at the Indian cricketers or players from the subcontinent, you see the cases of depression or anxiety few and far between. So what is it? I mean, is it because the players or the aspiring athletes grow up in much tougher conditions in the subcontinent, tougher socioeconomic conditions, stiffer competition? Is it the case? So to in Paddy's words, he said that it's partly true, but partly not so. While yes, I mean, it could be the tougher conditions could be an issue, but what he felt was in with the Western countries, it's not a taboo. I mean, they are learned to, they're taught to speak about it with their parents, or take psychiatric help from a very early age, if that happens. I mean, right from teens, if you ask me. But in India, it's still not that prevalent a situation. Things have improved. I mean, as we discussed during our conversation, that each team, whether it's a franchisee sport team or even national teams, they are now allowed to keep psychiatric help, provide. I mean, these people are coming out more and more in the open. I mean, they are not Dr. X. They also give interviews these days. They say that so and so came to me with a problem, etc. But what he felt was, in the Indian society, because it's a taboo, maybe these athletes also try to play the hero, that if I break down, if I betray this feeling, it may be treated as my weakness, and then gradually I will be either treated as a person who is mad, or who's mentally unstable. I will lose my place in the team. So that could be another issue. I mean, whichever cases have come, they have come with either performance related cases or personal problem related cases in India in recent times. I mean, for example, Muhammad Shami, he gave an interview some time back at an Instagram chat with a fellow cricketer, I think Rohit Sharma only, during this lockdown, where he said that there used to be a time in 2018 when he felt like committing suicide, jumping off the balcony. But that was the time when he was actually going through hell in his personal life, problems with his wife and all that. Then Robin Uthappa referred to a time much before that, I think around 2011-12, when he was out of the Indian team, when he was doing well, and he was possibly not doing that well in the IPL also. So that was again a personal career-related issue, which forced him to think on suicidal lines. But general depression triggered by something else, or as a natural, as a par for the course event, you don't really hear about from the Indian athletes. Whichever way it comes, they're very, very rare cases. More and more people should speak out, because once an incident happens, like when this Sushant Singh's Rajput, I cannot help but mention the name. I mean, there are a lot of theories, investigation is going on, etc. But the core issue of depression came about. And this is another industry which is a high pressure industry, with failure rate being much higher than success rates. That's where also this, in the entertainment industry, you see such cases cropping up. If more and more people speak, then help is forthcoming, because we shouldn't end up losing a life because of that. Just to start again, to go back to Tiwari as we discussed it. So that may reduce the percentage of this kind of cases if people are more vocal, people open up in the subcontinent, and then it will be good for their well-being, and it will be good for their performance.
One more question from my side. So, what happened with Hardik Pandya and KL Rahul in Coffee with Karan? They had huge pressure from the media, and I don't know, I can't talk about what they did during the show, but that's debatable, and there are personal opinions towards it. But what the pressure they were faced because of the media, that was immense. And I personally feel that if any person is going through that, they are going to face some kind of mental health issues. So can you talk about the media pressure which is involved in sports industry?
Yeah, see, this was, I think, a slightly different situation than a normal, like a mental health problem, because you don't know where to categorize it. But what happens is in countries like England or Australia, I know for a fact, where players are also they have to go through workshops on how to handle with the media, what to say and what not to say. Now, when these two cricketers had gone into the this Karan Johar's talk show, see, any controversial soundbite, you have to remember, I mean, even I'll have to admit, that gives you more hits or more eyeballs, right?
Yeah.
So these two cricketers, I mean, among them, obviously, KL Rahul is the more intelligent one. I mean, let's put it on record. Yeah, these two cricketers should have seen it coming, because the anchor will gradually leading them into it, and the more you fall for it, things get out of control. So at the end of the 1 hour, I mean, this guy, our Hardik Pandya, who is more of an extrovert guy, we know his temperament. He became the ideal fall guy for Indian cricket. To a lesser extent, Rahul. Why? Because Rahul still managed to cultivate an image of a suave, relatively more educated guy. That's why the public angst against Rahul was possibly a little less, more against Hardik because of his roots, humble roots. So both should have been wary about that. I mean, this is a pressure which they have invited upon themselves, and they had to pay the price. In fact, honestly, because it's the Indian board, they've got away lightly. Things could have been harsher had it been any other board, because we generally, the BCCI is not known to, they generally handle their star players with kid gloves. Let's face it. Other boards, things could have been harsher.
Thank you, sir. We are short of time, so we have to sum our session a bit. So I'll take two questions, one from Kushi, and we have a last question here from Mr. Arindam Basu, after which we'll call it a day. So, Kushi, if you have any question to Mr. Gautam Bhattacharyya.
Um, I think it's. I just want to know about how, like, other people, other sports person in this, like any other sports person, how they all manage to deal with their mental health issues. And obviously, everyone has a different take on it. Everyone has a different perspective. But I also want to know how, in India especially, we can like make a change to get things that are more acceptable, especially in this field relating to sports and mental health. So how can one be more acceptable? Like, how can we make a change to make India more acceptable to these things?
It's a good question. Though it's largely, like you're looking at the bigger picture here. So the problem is in India, because of the dynamics of the country. I mean, the way I look at it is, because of the population, because of the daily struggle of survival, what happens is, I mean, it's a country where, just to put it very bluntly, Kushi, that if you could restrict, say, the number of deaths today due to the pandemic, we'll say that okay, we have done a good job. I mean, the number of deaths is only 30,000. It is not 100,000 like the US or something. So that gives you a kind of indication into the mindset with which we look at it. I doubt, I mean, I cannot speak for all the athletes, but I doubt with how much of compassion or seriousness the mental health issue is treated across the board in all sport. See, I mean, you have got, when you spoke first, you spoke about a very kind of a very learned response to your crisis. I mean, when you were missing out on that little bit, from the between the from being a winner to a loser, but not all of them can take it like that. I mean, there could be extreme reactions, there could be heartbreaks, some people who try to leave the sport. Then we heard that the kind of situation that Harsh was facing off and on. So at the grassroots level, it's quite a tough situation, I think. There are still quite a heavy percentage of young boys and girls giving up on their ambition of pursuing sport the moment they're testing failures, and they're giving it up, focusing on academics. Once they graduate to a little higher level, then maybe some more help is forthcoming, but that help should be more and more pronounced for us to overcome that barrier and give all of them a level playing field. In India, what's happening is, across all sport, mentally, firstly, you have to be very resolute to come across those initial barriers, and then finally one can look at being a Koneru Hampi, or whoever, in any other sport, you're looking at excellence. So that's a problem you'll have to live with in our country. And yes, hope for the best, because things are changing. I mean, today the media, I mean, especially the digital media as well as print, in whatever in its limited scope of opportunities now, they talk or they write about this kind of things a lot more. I mean, before, when we started off, I mean, a crisis story had to do with poverty of a player. I mean, how somebody is breaking through the ranks and come. Those used to be the standard kind of stories. But now we also see stories how somebody X or Y has crossed that the barrier of mental problems, mental health, and gone on. So the more this comes up, this kind of stories also act as an inspiration for the others.
Yeah. So one last question now to and what has been a really, really wonderful and insightful session. I wish we could go on for hours and hours. But obviously, we all have other commitments. So yeah, so Arindam Basu, first of all, thank you to him for participating so enthusiastically because he has sent in a lot of questions. Thank you, Arindam uncle. So he asks that Gautam, don't you think that a lot more games are at stake now for new cricketers? Sorry, I have to rephrase it. A lot more than just the game. Beg your pardon. Is at stake for cricketers like money, livelihood, and being out actually devastates them mentally. Because it's much more than the game now.
Sorry, what's the last part of the question?
There is much more than the game now.
Uh-huh.
So do you think it actually devastates a person's mental health?
It does. You see, it's once again a question of being able to handle pressure. I mean, see, till about even say, if we talk, I mean, since his question relates to cricket, I'll say that till about even 10 years, the general perception was that, okay, I mean, if so and so has just come in and he started doing well in international cricket, don't shower him with too many endorsements or too many other assignments, because that'll kind of his feet will not be on the ground. That used to be the general perception, say about 10 years back. But now it's no longer that way. I mean, again, a very good example is Kohli himself. I mean, a guy who's on the Forbes richest list, who's the most followed person on the Instagram, a man who was in the first 10 years of his career, he has scored around 70 international centuries. So he showed that he could maintain a balance between all. I mean, when he's doing his cricket, when he's doing his physical training, he's doing that 110%. When he's doing all these things outside that, he's being managed by a very efficient team, and he's doing it like a professional. So that's the image of a modern athlete for you. Definitely more things are at stake, but if you want to survive, and it's a question of survival of the fittest, you'll have to be able to strike a balance. You'll have to make yourself aloof to a certain distance. I mean, that's why modern day cricketers are far difficult to get. I mean, they're far difficult to be accessed for interviews or any chats, or they're not even for their fans. They will say that I don't need to stop and chat with a fan or take a picture or a selfie with a kid. I've got my social media. I'm saying whatever messages that I have to leave, I'm saying there. So take it from there and leave me alone. So you have to create your own bubble and live in that. I mean, definitely there are a lot more in stake now. And that's why they do that, for survival.
So, I don't have words to thank you, sir, for this amazing.
My pleasure.
For this amazing session. So, thank you so much. Just a couple of formalities before we end the session. So, we would like to thank a couple of people for commenting.
Sure.
There's Shani Chakraborty, Devashin Chakraborty, thank you. Gautam Bhattacharyya, Surojit Bhattacharya, Haidar sir, Arindam Basu, Pradeep Nag sir, Sanjay Ganguly, Soumya Datta, Utsav Chatterjee, R.N. Sharma, Ashwati Ganguly, and Devarati Dev, and also people who asked the questions, Master Chaudhary, Faiza Basi, Devashin Sarkar, and also we had a question from Aman Saraf based on the what we should do, the sports authority should do, but I think we have covered it, so we should not go there again. And also, I would like to thank my parents for giving me this.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and also we hope our collaboration with DHEECast goes from strength to strength here. And please do subscribe to DHEECast. It is one of the best channels going around now. Honestly, I personally love their content. And yeah, please do subscribe to them and also follow our page Sports Psyche on Instagram. We would love to have your support. So anyways, thank you, Khushi. Harshvardhan actually had some connection issues, so unfortunately he had to leave. So thank you, Sanket, thank you, Khushi, and thank you, Gautam sir, for this wonderful and insightful session. And hopefully we can have many more such sessions in the near future.
Yes.
Thanks again, and have a wonderful day. And thank you.
Thank you.